of us have a community and we care so much, but people don't necessarily show up even though their future is at stake with SMUSA. Like if I wasn't running and there was no candidate, like there's so much at stake here. But why is it that people don't care? Why is it that people don't show up? I'll get into that. But I've also, because I've experienced 3 elections at this point and I've actively been a part of those, I've showed up to those board of directors meetings even though they're late at night. I see what the issues are, and I've seen them for the past 3 years. There's a specific pattern here. And when I ran last year and I campaigned, I realized, oh, my grievances, it's not just me sitting in my living room being like, oh, this is what's wrong with SMUSA. I love them, but like, why are they doing this? I had so many conversations. I realized, oh, people are on the same page. The students want the same thing. But again, why is there a disconnect? So then I ran. I was like, okay, I'll, connect those two things that I feel are disconnected. And even now, I think the current leadership that Tina has, she's the president now. She's built such a good base. And I remember making a LinkedIn post because I love being on LinkedIn, being like, I trust Tina so much. I have no doubts about her capabilities. And like she's proven herself. I remember sitting there on the table and she gave a bunch of stuff that she wanted to do, and we're all like, yeah, okay, are you going to do it? She did it. And I see it. So when I come in now, it's about broadening that base and everything that she's done and just bringing the reputation and trust back. And then I also have a really, really big vision. Before I came to SMU, I was homeschooled. I haven't really finished high school, kind of like a dropout. And then I came to uni. And then I'm like, I realized all the opportunities and I have it, and I kind of went crazy. And that's the same for a lot of different students who come from small towns. You come to SMU and you realize, holy, your dreams can come true. And mine, I wouldn't have imagined that I would be sitting here as the only presidential candidate. Not that, like, that means I'm going to win or anything, but, just as the single most person standing here talking to you, giving a speech, not even in a forum. I wouldn't have thought that. 15-year-old me did not think that was possible. I thought my life ended because I was in a like small town, I was homeschooled. I wasn't kind of getting the things that I wanted. And now I'm here and I'm like, holy, it's just about leveraging the opportunities that you get. I sit with my friends and I'm like, guys, there's so much out there. What are you doing? Like it's my focal point and my vision to make sure that like all the opportunities we have are getting used. And like Timothy says, I'm kind of in the pursuit of greatness, and I know that like SMU can be so great. Like SMUSA, we have so many resources, so many communities. But again, why that people just don't show up? I think we're stuck in the cycle of like trying to just pass by and do what's necessary. Like every time someone inherits SMUSA, there's so many problems. There's governance problems, there's policy problems, there are HR problems. They inherit a SMUSA that's in havoc. And when you take that on, I understand you're not really able to, do really big things because you're stuck in those toxic cycles. But now that Tina has built a really good base, we can actually get started and do things that SMUSA can do, like how every other university does. And when I say that this is not a matter of budget, it is about having someone who has the vision. And that's the reason why I asked in yesterday's forum, how would the board of directors support the presidential candidate's vision? Because I know if I come in, I have really grand plans that I'm going to get into that need so much support in terms of just standing with your president. And then when I also look at the past presidents like Osama, like, oh, my pen went. My bad. Technical problems. But when I look at like past presidents like Osama, when he came in, he like what Gorsbrook looks like now, it didn't look like that before when he came. He came and he revamped it. If today I stand up and I'm like, I'm gonna open a second Gorsbrook, people are gonna call me delusional. But he still did that. And that's the kind of leader you need. Someone who sees that vision and is like, okay, here's the action plan on how we're gonna make that happen. And then the same with Shire. She advocated for like no pass, no credit. Simba opened up the Black student space. It's about having that ambition and then having the will and drive to see those plans through. Because currently, I don't see a long-term plan for SMUSA. Like each year, it's like, we're going to do our welcome weeks, we're going to do this. We have a few different things. What about the long-term plan? What about the long-term vision for all the other presidents to follow? And I think that's sort of gotten lost in all of the HR problems and the governance and all of those things that SMUSA is drowning in that we all are very aware about, which, we have uncomfortable conversations about. But when it comes down to what I want to do, again, like I said, I want to build off of that base. I want to bring in partnerships and sponsorships from within the community. I spent 2 years in Halifax building a great network that is worth so much. I want to leverage my personal network to bring in those partnerships and sponsorships to SMUSA. And then I also want to partner up with local businesses to create quotas, so that they prioritize SMU students for jobs. And I had this in my platform last year as well. And to deal with food insecurity, again, I want to tap into my network and bring in more donations into the food room. It sounds like, okay, Lisa, you're going to go into 2 meetings. Are you really going to be able to bring in money? Yes, yes. And I've done this kind of stuff. I've got, like, by talking, I've gotten myself into rooms where I did not belong, or I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't put myself out there. So when I tell you, trust me, it's when people say go network, it's not about adding someone on LinkedIn. It's about building that trusted relationship so that you can get yourself through that door into someone's meeting room and being like, our students need this much, and our students need support. Families like Sobi, family like all of these businesses, they are very willing to help with food rooms and all of these food initiatives and insecurities. Dal does this on a regular basis. All these other universities have great, they do these partnerships. It is not something impossible. And then even further than just bringing more donations into the food room, because I talked to the food room coordinator like a week ago, and he said he wanted this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find a concrete plan on how we're going to go about this. It's also about expanding it. Can everyone raise their hand if they're familiar with loaded ladle at the DAL? At DAL? Can you raise your hand if you're familiar with loaded ladle at DAL? Okay, so two people. So Loaded Ladle is like a community kitchen. People come and volunteer there, and they make food, I think on a daily basis or like on a weekly basis, like 5 days out of the week. And all the students can come in for free, put it in their lunch boxes and take it home. So I want to do collaborations where we partner up with them and we can turn it into an inactive process. And project. And I also work at the Entrepreneurship Center, and I have those connections where I can get them to back that project up and have volunteers run it. We can even have produce from Square Roots, which is an inactive project, be used in that community kitchen. And each society can weekly come in and support that initiative. And each week we have one society participate, they volunteer to make the food, etc., etc. I also want to do strategic partnerships with DAL to get SMU students into events like the Snowfest, because I see so many universities collaborating, and I'm like, why is SMU missing out on all of these? And I think it's genuinely just about opening those doors. And then I want to partner up with the Entrepreneurship Center to leverage AI, because right now the unemployment rate has gone up, especially for entry-level job, because AI, the use of it is so is getting is getting normal, but no one necessarily knows how to leverage it. So I want to get mentorship to students through the Entrepreneurship Center, through their AI playground, which again people don't even know about. We can bring in experts in AI, have them come to SMU, give them skills that students would need after graduation. And we've had so many like businesses, CEOs come out of the Sobi School of Business. We've had so many CEOs, so many businesses come out of the Entrepreneurship Center, SMU in general. Why not build upon that? When we're seeing that something is successful and working, why not expand it? I also want to do monthly dedicated weeks where I sit down in different meetings with societies or like specific residence groups, and I ask them for feedback directly. Emails and whatnot, all of that is lost in translation. If I'm like, oh, you can email me with your concerns, there's that disconnect. Example one, I'm not there. Why, if I'm like, you can give me your concerns and you are going through a crisis, and I'm like, yeah, email me, are you going to feel like I care? No, not really. You're going to be like, yeah, it's going to get thrown in an email box. So I want to be there in front of you so that you can give me all of those, all of your concerns and whatnot. And then I also want to run events that cater to mature students, indigenous students. And I've had experiences where we have catered to those, because I've been a part of like residences, holiday programming for like 2 years now. So every Christmas break, all the RAs that stay back, they can volunteer to do events. I've been a part of those. Mature students come in and I've had conversations with them where they tell us what it is that they want. So just building off of the feedback that I already have from them. There's also an issue that I've personally looked into, which is the Dash Fund. The 50K that they've been getting from us, you can find articles online about how the Dash Fund is not prioritizing students. The money from the Dash Fund is actually like, they were like, oh, we're going to build houses and it's just going to be for students. No, actually, they've been putting in regular people in those houses. So I want to go back and look at that specific partnership to understand where it is that our money is going. As an international student, my fees are so high. Why is it that this company came in, they passed a referendum, they got $5 off of every student every semester, and we don't see it? We have no update on it. We don't know it. I get articles. I'm seeing articles being like, yeah, they're getting random people coming in, living there. So why am I paying $5 every semester? So it's looking into those little things and finding that money and then allocating, because that $50,000 could easily be a bursary, easily. So we've done contracts, we've done partnerships, but you have to revisit and look at each individual thing. Is it benefiting the students at the end of the day? Then I also want to do more events that students want. Like if they want more concerts, they want more fun. Again, like asking them personally, okay, what do you want in your welcome weeks? What do you want in January, etc. For advocacy, I want a really detailed plan when I come in and I appoint my team. I really like the structure of the peer advocacy team. I want to build off of that. And I want to have a long-term strategic plan on how we want to go about advocacy, because advocacy is a long-term thing. It is not a, oh, I'm going to advocate for housing, and then the next person that comes in after me is like, I'm going to advocate about tuition. It is like a collective effort that takes years. So there needs to be a lot of thought and process into that. And then I also want to partner. Sorry, there's so many things that I want to do. So I'm just putting it out there. I also want to partner up with like rental housing companies to prioritize new students, not having the same thing as Dash Fund, more so just having like quotas where they have specific places where they prioritize new students. There's Alma Student Housing, which already does housing for students, which is already furnished, and it's not crazy expensive either. So building off of those partnerships that are mutually benefit to them and us, and then also a long-term plan for tuitions, because it keeps increasing every year. And as an international student, every year I'm like, no one told me that it was increasing this much. So like informing students that like these are the expected raises and this is how much it's actually going to cost, because I've seen students leave university and go back home because they can no longer afford it, or they're not eating anymore. And that's just not fair. And that is just not, they're not familiar with how Canada works. And it's like a immediate shock. So like, why can we not, as a student association that backs them up, prepare them for what's about to come? And then I also really want to work and advocate with the faculty and creating a system for what happens when strike occurs. For example, a full-time strike is about to happen, like having those plans set in motion so that we're not kind of losing our minds when it's happening, and having that support system ready for students when it is very crucially needed. And I also really want to make the campus more accessible. I can't specifically remember, but I walked around a bunch around the campus and I'm like, this is not really an accessible doorway. Or like, how would someone who's, let's say, in a wheelchair be able to enter through, like having those uncomfortable conversations with the admin being like, you need to make this campus more accessible. And I know people from the board also talked about this. There are people with disabilities whose needs need to be seen and met, because SMU is for everyone, not just a few. And then lastly, I want to do two things to hold myself accountable and my VPs as well. I want to do a monthly call-in session where well, either you'll call us live or you'll just leave us voicemails. And on a live stream, I'm gonna sit in the podcast room in the Entrepreneurship Center. I'm gonna pick them up and I'm gonna answer each and everything that you said, regardless of whether it's harsh, regardless of whether it's straight up criticism or you're hating on my policy. I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna answer, because at the end of the day, I am serving you. You pay my salary and the presidential candidate, and it should be like that every year, because you have to hold people accountable. A board of director meetings is just not enough. And then lastly, same thing with accountability. Similar to this, two town hall meetings every semester where it's me and my VPs and we sit down, and for 2 straight hours you get to grill us. We're advocating for something that you don't like. Come say it. Come say it. And again, students will still, I don't want to give you like, the false sense of hope that like, this hall will be packed if I do my town hall. No, it won't. but we, even now, I see a lot of diverse groups of students. Each one can probably give me something to take away when I go home. I see Nabiha, peer advocacy team. I see Jonathan from Res Life. I see Kristen. I know you have done work in advocacy. I see Hannah from Enactus. All of these people are from different organizations, from different groups. That means that they each have a different perspective. And as one person, I obviously don't have perspective of everything, but it is my job to serve each and every group. So when I sit here, all those students from different, even if it's one student, they come in and they give me their concern, they hold me accountable, and I kind of have to do it because I'm standing there in front of you and I have to answer everything that you're doing. Um, that's the end of my bullet points. But to end it off, I know that there isn't someone to like debate with me or argue. It may feel like you don't have a choice, but not really. If I haven't sold you anything that I just said, we're gonna go into a question session. You can ask me. I last year, I was in board of director meetings and I was asking very uncomfortable questions about SMUSA, about holding people accountable. I've seen people yell, I've seen people scream in board of director meetings. I'm not afraid of any of that. So when you ask your questions, ask them blatantly. I don't have a concern. Okay, that's all.
So that was great. Just before we get to the audience questions, I'm going to ask you one quick question because you gave us a lot of uh, list of things, and I think it'd be good to ask. At the end of the tour, like, what is the one accomplishment or quality that you hope defines your legacy at the end of your term?
Um, I think if I was able to build really strong partnerships and I was able to do a similar thing like Tina did with the bursaries, because as an international student, I know so many, it's an ongoing problem. I know people who have dropped out, a really big concern. If I'm able to do those two things and bring back the reputation and trust of SMUSA and have it be just as cool as Dalston Union is, or just as relevant as all the other unions are, I'll be more than happy. Even if I don't get to do the partnerships, even just the fact that like SMUSA's reputation is back up and the trust is back up, I will be more than content.
So to audience questions. So anybody is free to ask any question of the question you have, or if you have something that is a concern or something like, hey, this is something that about SMUSA, about the university that I'm interested about. Maybe it's not something that even SMUSA can have a say in, but she can try to answer best. And for you, Lisa, just so that people can have everybody have a chance to answer questions, just keep them to around like 1 to 2 minutes. I'm not gonna time it, but just
Okay.
roughly like that. So let's start with Ethan.
Just the advocacy team wants to keep that. Advocacy team was obviously made to cover the role of the VP of advocacy. Some of the responsibilities the VP advocacy team aren't covered with the role of the VP of advocacy, especially for external purposes, like board of governors seats and a lot of other things aren't covered by the team currently. Would you continue like Tina's doing, take over those responsibilities that she could find someone for? Or would you make it a position for that, or would you build the team around filling?
So I had a conversation with Tina, like a 1 hour conversation with Tina to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself into. And I asked her the same question. I in my head right now, I want to keep the peer advocacy team. They've done such great work that everyone is now aware of when we had VP advocacy, because that one position was doing so many things and they had so much at their hands. They couldn't really go out there and, put the word out. But with them, they have a media person, they have a research person who writes really long reports, on things that are very, very crucial and important. And they have someone, again, who supports all of that. So, and what Tina explained to me as well was that for the external positions that we have, and she would go there. It also saved on a lot of costs of traveling and whatnot, and that money can be reallocated to a lot of different things like bursaries. If I do step into the role and I see that, let's say there's a position that I can't, let's say there's a board of governors seat that I can't fulfill, or something like that, we'll have to revisit that. But I think the structure that she's made works. We've seen that work. The engagement on SMUSA's page with the advocacy post that they've made is insane. It's like it's not even comparable to last year. Students actually care. You see the views from like 10,000 to 6,000. You see the engagement. That tells me that people are digesting the information that they're saying, which is very, very important, because advocacy, you don't see like the results of it, but you can hear from someone that they're working on something, because advocacy isn't really like a tangible item. So the fact that they're able to translate it tells me that it works. And I've sat and I've analyzed the 3-person system really does do well. And I don't think one person would be able to do it. Also, it's unjustifiable costs of like traveling and whatnot. And it's a lot of unnecessary things. But again, when I step into the role, I will again revisit it. But from my perspective right now, I think it's a system that works great.
Great. So the next question. Kristen?
Okay. So I have 5, but we'll go back to everyone else.
Okay, let's do one at a time.
Yes. These around the world losing a lot of money into the AI space. So how exactly does your AI policy affecting this new students really play into this long term?
I don't, okay. This is more techie based. It might start to get irrelevant to this conversation, but I can just say now in entry roles, like as someone who does a lot of work with businesses, organizations, even startups that are literally fully based on AI, I know that it's not going anywhere for the next 5-10 minutes, if years. Even when you say that the businesses are coming out of the AI bubble, it's just that it's not being used properly, and they're kind of realizing that. So that's why I said we'll bring experts in so that our students are getting skills that are it's AI is not chat GPTing. It's so much more than that. It's learning how to, prompting prompt engineering. Clearly you can tell I'm not a tech person. I'm a commerce student. But there's so much more to that. And if we're talking about students who are just now graduating and within my presidency for the next 5 years, if I'm giving them AI skills, there is no harm in it. The likelihood of them getting employed is so much more high. And as someone who literally applies to jobs in their free time for fun, I can tell you for a fact that it's not going anywhere. Not necessarily sure about your AI bubble thing. I don't necessarily think it applies in this context, especially for entry level jobs. You're next.
So essentially, circling around recently. How exactly, when you form your VP team, are you going to make sure that you don't have the transparency of conflict of interest, as well as make sure you retain top tier talent within the organization?
So you said retain and then
Yeah, how to make sure.
conflict. Okay. So conflict. I feel like these are really personal issues to me, because I feel like I have been involved in decisions where I felt like there were conflicts of interest, because I've applied for that role like multiple times. And I always see a pattern in that hiring. And ever since I've been here, that pattern has never gone away. And it's something that like really, really bothers me and angers me. And it's against my principle. I am so against, when I founded my Formula One society, my sister is sitting there, Neiza, I told my people, I said, oh, I'm going to get, she wants to apply for finance. Are you, and I asked my VP, like, she's my sister, but like looking at her resume, are you good with that? Keep in mind, it's a student society that I founded, that no one really cares who's the finance, the stakes are not high. Yet I still made I wanted to make sure that they didn't, because I know that it will reflect badly on me. And I even looked at her resume and I knew for a fact that she was qualified for it. There was no nepotism in it, but I still made sure, because I could still have a bias that I cannot acknowledge. I asked my VP. And I think even when you do those interviews, I've been a part of that process. I've sat at the opposite side of the chair. There's multiple people involved in that. When it comes to me personally, I know that this is more of a faith thing from your side, but my integrity and my principles are so strong. I am unwilling to shake them, even if it's my sister. Like, it does not matter, because that's who I am as a person. At the end of the day, I have to answer to God. I have to answer to my people. So when I put down, oh, CEO and like president of SMUSA, and if someone asks me something that's like, oh, but didn't you hire your sister? That's like, it falls apart. And I've built myself, like I've done so much work to get here to this day that I would never put it. And that's just not how I've grown up. And I don't think I have a lot of conflict of interest anyways in SMU. My circle is very small. I don't really have biases against people. I know everyone, but at the end of the day, because I'm so into this role, I'll be fully transparent with you. If I win this election, I'm going to let go of so many projects that I currently do. My job at a startup, my co-ops. I'm not even going to take any courses for the entirety of my presidency. So I'm putting a lot at stake where this presidency doesn't necessarily help my career path, and I'm doing it out of the sheer like dedication I have to this association, and I see how the voter turnout is. I see how students don't care about it anymore, and it affects me personally. Like I've lost hair over this. Like I'm telling you, like this is personal, but like it stresses me out. So if I started doing the same things, it doesn't even make sense. You know, like. And I can just, I mean, again, you have to put your faith into it, but that's just not the kind of person I am. And for retaining of talent, I think it comes down to the applicants. Like I know that like last year, for example, there were like struggles with getting people to apply, and like we necessarily get like 10, maybe 15 applications. So I will do my best to put the word out there, like in every way that I can. And we'll select from the pool, and also keep in mind it's not just me. There's Graham involved. There was Kathy involved, not anymore, but there's like a bunch of other people who are involved in that process. The chair is also involved, so there'll be a lot of people to hold me accountable at the end of the day. And again, when I do my town hall and you're like, you hired someone, you can hold me accountable right there and then, and I'll answer. Sorry, that was not 2 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. We can get to your later questions. I'm still, I'll get to Alex.
Hi, Anna.
What is the number one thing that you think SMUSA should have right now, but doesn't? And whatever that thing is, what's your plan to implement it?
Trust. SMUSA doesn't have trust or the reputation. Even with all the great work that like Tina has done in this presidency, people still don't have that trust, even though that base has been built. And there's like tangible, like you can see it. And I think it comes down to relationship management, and seeing your president on a day to day, having those really uncomfortable conversations, being held accountable. And I think when you get into the position, like I've said this to Simba, and he said the same thing last year to me. He was like, Lisa, I know you're saying that now, but once it comes to the role, you really won't be able to go down the halls like you will be. In September, I did like 6 jobs, and I was still on campus every single day. And those 6 jobs were like hectic, very crazy environments. I know when I prioritize something, I put I put everything into it, and I know that I really want the reputation and trust back, because the work can be great, but if students don't care and they're not even showing up to the presidential, like imagine this goes on next year, we have no one. What happens? We don't have a game plan for that. So it's about building that trust and reputation. That would be my goal. Yeah.
Tyler, go.
So often as students, we don't necessarily know what's going on around the rest of school, but for a president, that's an incredibly important thing. What are some recent successes in the arts and science faculties that the students should be more aware of?
That's a very good question. I'm starting to sweat here now. Arts and science. I honestly, it would be injustice of me. I don't have the bandwidth to keep up with that. I'm so sorry. Like I'm so, even when I before I started this election, I looked into even like what UFT does in their unions, because I was so because my priority is bringing that trust and reputation back. I wasn't able to get into the like very mind, like I know it's very important, but the very minute details just didn't have the capacity to get to that. And I will do better. I'll find out what they do great. But like you said, there's so much overload of what SMU does. Even as a student, like I feel overwhelmed. Like opportunities, events, like something is happening, someone's doing something in SMUSA. Like it's so much that you just can't keep up. That's something I didn't keep up with. My apologies. That's the best answer I can give you. And yes,
You're honest.
yeah.
Let Dre go.
We would not take any courses, but it is mandatory that as president of the organization, I enroll full-time courses. So how do you, like part-time, yeah, so how do you plan at least to juggle not just the courses, not just managing supporting the team, but being able to get all of these amazing initiatives that you have in mind, out the door? Also, are you prepared as well to be able to prioritize as well as some of the initiatives to be able to achieve that growth?
Okay. Thank you, Jay. I actually talked to Graham about this, and he said I can turn my presidency into a co-op. But again, that's going into details that, like, let's say that I take courses, right? Um, Last semester I had a full-time job. I worked at a startup. I was building on my own thing, and I had three courses. Full-time student, full-time employee, and working on two other things. So if I was gonna say that like no one can question me on this, it would be like my time management and my priority skills. Like I said, I don't necessarily care when I graduate. I don't know if this is bad to say, it's a bad luck, but like my classes, because I'm a marketing student, I can like take them slowly, I can take my time. But like I said, if I wasn't able to prioritize, I wouldn't have taken on this role. I would have never even applied. Like I am very willing to let go of a lot of these things. And also even when it comes to classes, like I'm an employee first, then a student. I forget that. I love my work so much. Even when I go to class, I talk to my professors and they're like, Lisa, why don't you come to class like you do? And I'm like, Professor, you get my assignment. Are you happy? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, what you're teaching me in class in marketing, I really applied in real life. And Professor Hadi, I don't know if you guys know, he's in marketing. He was satisfied with the answer. He's like, well, okay, you can miss this class. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I wouldn't necessarily say you have to worry about me being able to prioritize. Keeping in mind the fact that I've clearly prioritized this election so much that I'm willing to let go of so many different things that are very important to my career in the future just because of my dedication to this association. Do that, guys.
All right, let you go.
Not coming from a student perspective, just coming from a student perspective. My question is, what does this role mean to you, and at what point would you consider yourself to be effective? Okay.
Role means to me like my whole life. Like genuinely, I came to SNU, so I built like a lot of this is very like personal and like a little bit of vulnerabilities in it because again, like I said, came to SMU, they hadn't really done a lot of stuff, so again lost my mind. So I made this list of all the stuff that I want to do: valedictorian, dean's list. I want to work at the entrepreneurship center. I want to do like a bunch of different stuff, and I've been able to like take off everything. And then there was like SMUSA president sitting there, and like I applied for it like the first year I came in, and I had maybe been here for like 9 months. And it wasn't because the role is like, oh, I'm going to be president and founder. And, like I said, it doesn't necessarily even help my career because I'm going to go into marketing in like the entertainment field. So it doesn't translate there. But it's the fact that like, I sit in these of director meetings and like I see that like, oh, I'm frustrated with the fact that like there was no transparency or like accountability. Why are there people yelling? Why are there people screaming? Like I don't want to cry, but like there's someone crying there because something great happened and they're affected by it. I see all of that and I'm like, okay, so we all share the same emotions, but not like why isn't one of us standing up to do it? So it's me. So like during Simba's time, when all of those really, really uncomfortable board of director meetings was happening, all of those people sitting there, they had the same problems that I did. And when I was running at the time, I think, I don't remember, it's too many elections I've seen. But I was like, okay, not alone in this. So SMUSA to me is like, I can't even put it into words. It's basically like I know how much power it holds and how basically it can change your life. But right now, no one cares about it or even knows how it can change your student experience. Like SMUSA has affected my student like experience in good ways and sometimes in very, very bad ways. So, I want to make sure that everyone has a really good experience and I come in and I change that. And to answer your question of like what would make me really successful, again, if we had board of director meetings and like no one was yelling, no one was screaming, there were no conflict of interests, no, like the reputation, people came in to these forums and they were like, yeah, my problem got addressed, and they walk off. And I know that won't happen every time because that's just like, daydreaming and it's not real. But at the end of my presidency, no one questions the integrity of the association, not of me, the association, because the association is always like character assassination of the association on a daily basis. And that's something I don't see with other associations or even unions. So if we can like build such a good base that no one has to question the integrity of the association as a whole, success.
What is it?
should, right now, like, we can see that really passionate about this organization. So how do you ensure you're not burnt out? Because at the end of the day, you are a human being, you are a student, and how do you ensure that you're not burnt out so that people don't say like, oh my god, the president is burnt out. So how do you ensure that?
Um, for me to say I would never be burned out is like a lie, and I don't necessarily like lying. I don't actually lie, anyways. But I would say, like Timothy says, I'm in pursuit of greatness. Burnout isn't necessarily an option. I have days of burnout. It happens on the weekend. I like sleep, I catch up, and then I remember the places that I want to be, the rooms that I want to be. You don't get to places like Leah does if you sit there and you're like, I'm burnt out. You really, really don't. And if I'm here at my age and, Leah's coming in, she's like, I didn't do that at that age. There's the reason why people our age are able to do that is because we're so motivated and determined to change the course of our lives, to be so delusional. Like, I'm here because I'm delusional. Like, I'm telling you this like straight up, because I envision great things and I'm like, okay, if I don't get there, I'll get here. Like, shoot for the stars, moon, land at the stars type of thing. And for the burnout, like, a practical answer would be, again, like I said, I'm going to turn it into a co-op, so I wouldn't have to worry about classes. And even if I do end up having to take classes, it would be all of my electives and whatnot. And I'm going to drop everything. I'm not going to have any of my projects that I work on, not going to work at the entrepreneurship center, not going to work at the Bean startup that I work at, dropping all of that just for the organization, because I know it's very, very integral. And it would I would do it injustice if I didn't give it my 100 and I start focusing on other things. And I know I'm a student at the end of the day, but this role is so much bigger. If you sit there and you're like, I did my 9 to 5 office hours, now I'm not going to go back and listen to the student. It's just not, that's not how you roll with it. And so what I want to do is, even if it's after my office hours, doesn't matter. If someone is in my office, they're in my office. And if I sit there and I'm like, I'm burnt out, and like, that's for weekends. That's when I can like sleep it off, and then I wake up and I'm like, okay, I have a mission. Because you can't build up the reputation, you can't do all of the things that I just laid out to you if I'm stuck in the cycle of like, oh, this is exhausting for me. That can come once I'm done. I'll take a vacation in Bora Bora or something. Yeah. Yes.
So in our day-to-day life, being a leader is very, very hard. It's very rewarding, but very hard. My question for you is, how, as someone who you won't be able to share live experience with every student that you represent, whether it's cultural, racial, or economic, that they are different from you, how will you meaningfully consult with them and advocate with them by going along with what SMU has for the youth?
Okay. Very good question. I actually thought about that, and a lot of what other again, I look at what other universities have been doing, and I've been doing that for 2 years, because it's really good to learn from other people's mistakes, but it's also really good to learn for what they've been able to be successful at. So a lot of different universities, they have different committees, and different student representatives. So they have representatives from like one student body community, and then another like an arts representative, a black student representative. So all of those problems get addressed when I come into presidency. That there will be budget constraints, but seeing how we can kind of have representatives from each community that we can find, and have them be a part of that process, and include them in when I make my plans. Let's say when we do welcome weeks. Welcome weeks are not very welcoming to mature students. So how do we change that? And I'm very, very open to conversations. I think I really like, if I was to praise myself, I'd say I really like the fact that I'm able to talk to people. I do that during the holidays. I've talked to them. They don't feel very welcomed. Like, it's welcome weeks, but it's like a bunch of 17-year-olds. It's like a pirate ship. That's not kind of what they want to do. So even just from having conversations with them, because I was able to find them, I know that. So when I have this role and I have the ability to talk to different groups, I think I'd be able to take that input, and also just including that representative model, however that may be, whether it be voluntary or like paid. Or
Connotation with this, which is what are any deliverables or action specifically for at-risk students in SPU, including, mature students, MBA students that really not really heard, people from on like poverty, and especially recently indigenous communities with this stuff happening with the with the alternative.
Um, I would say a lot of those action items would come after having those conversations. And I don't mean the hi, I'm Lisa, I go to SMU, have a it's from a place of the presidency when you have those conversations and they can tell you actually what they want. If I sat here and I gave you deliverables, it wouldn't do their communities justice because I would just be going off of the other conversations I've had or what I've heard. So when I come into these presidencies, even when like the semester starts and like as soon as there'll be summer to prepare for it and whatnot, but as soon as the semester starts, it is like the top of my list is getting those conversations started way before so that we can incorporate that meaningfully. And I'm not just saying, oh yeah, I talked to these students and then I'm talking in like September, not September, like December or whatever, when the semester is ending. I would say those deliverables would have to come later, or otherwise I would be doing those people injustice.
Speech was amazing. I used to last year, in terms of the content and just your eloquence, really good. I've no doubt that students like will love your personality, and love you around campus, and you'll be a great president to us, when you're in our face. But when it comes to representing students in rooms with some intimidating figures, people in the senior management and executive management, how are you able to like code switch or put on a different personality that is kind of more serious, but it kind of, just help them to see you as someone in a more like serious light. Obviously people know you like you're funny, like the Batman thing, we love it and all of that.
The best, that's hard. We don't talk about that.
We don't.
No.
Yeah. Oh, and students can trust that, as nice as you are on our face, you might be, really a force to stand with, in board of governors meetings or academic senate or stuff like that.
So actually, after like last year's election, that was a lot of feedback that I took in. With whoever it came from, I took that in because the way that I kind of looked at last year's election was very different than how I look at it now because I'm kind of changing the trajectory of my life now for this election. And I think after that election, I realized, okay, I need to take solid steps to be able to answer your questions in 1 year time. So when I say I've, like the past year, I've kind of gone outside of SMU and like gotten immense, extensive experience, like experience that I've had to, exhaust myself to get. Like I said, September, 6 jobs. That's me getting that experience, the soft skills that you are asking for. And when it comes to having, those intimidating conversations with people, having the conversation with those intimidating people, I've been having those since I stepped into SMU. The first summer in 2024, which was my first summer in Canada, I was meeting with Tom Brophy to advocate about what was happening around the world. To be like, oh, we need to change this policy because this policy, the students don't want this. I was talking, and this, you were there for a lot of those things. I've advocated for stuff, and like people have shut me down in the administration. They've told me not to talk about it. I still advocate for it. I'm still a part of those conversations. I don't think, like I said, it goes back to your integrity and your principles. No job is ever worth changing your integrity and your principles. So regardless, whoever is standing in front of me, be it an MLA, be it a politician, be it Elon Musk, I am still me and I am still answerable to a very huge student body. So that person doesn't intimidate me. What intimidates me is I come and I sit at my town hall and someone says, your integrity, you lied about that because you don't do what we stand for. That's what I would be terrified for, because a politician or whatever doesn't pay my salary, nor am I answerable to them. And the same with SMU's administration. I've over the year built very good relationships within the administration because I work with them. I see them in the hallway, from the president, the past president to the current president to the dean, to Tom Brophy, to people in student life. Every department, I know someone there and I have a really good connection with them. And I'm saying this to establish the fact that I've done the work very, very meticulously and very consciously so that when I step into this role, I don't have to do it from scratch. And you're not getting a president who isn't prepared and who isn't like taken seriously. Because I'm young, I know I'm a girl, like all the factors that she talked about, I know when I get into those rooms, people question it. but because I've built up the experience, that's why I like, if someone questions me anymore, it doesn't bother me because my experience speaks for itself. So when I go into those rooms, I hardly ever actually get questioned by people who are in those positions of power. I get questioned by students, which, and those students are just hating on me because, I'm outspoken about the things that other students want. So it's like a very murky waters, but I would say people know me, and I feel like I have no like problems standing up, and you need a strong leader who isn't intimidated by a politician or like someone at the admin or whatever. Like those people are not the ones I'm backed up by. I'm backed up by like SMU's population, which is in the thousands. So like, yeah, that's my answer for you, Topaz.
Let's leave.
I could ask questions all day, and I think you have wonderful ideas. I think you're very ambitious. I think what you've shared is fantastic. My question that I'll choose to go with is you mentioned the haters, right? And a position in a presidency, you will receive feedback. You will receive feedback that you're not doing enough, you're missing what's important to me, and you're only caring about what your friends want, and anything, and then some, anything imaginable, I'm sure will come your way potentially. How do you deal with that feedback first and turn it into something good? How do you engage those people and bring them on side with you, as many as you can, when you can, or if they're willing to? And how do you maintain your positive energy when times get tough?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I really like that. Thank you. So I think it starts off with not internalizing any of it. So last year, when I ran, it was a very different strategy. I got a lot of hate, I got a lot of criticism, I got a lot of feedback. So I took the criticism and I took the feedback because I can very easily distinguish when someone is just hating and there's no value in it. I can even take out value from when someone is hating, because people who are hating said some things that actually made sense. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to work on it. So next year, you can't say the same thing. And the fact that I'm here kind of proves just how he said, the way that I've shifted how I go about this election, how I speak about what things I speak about. I've learned so much because I got so much feedback, be it from my friends, criticism, whatever. I think it's very important not to internalize it. And then engaging with it, I think it's I've tried to find different ways that I can engage with it, so that people don't have to resort to like very negative methods. So that's why I said I'll listen to the voice messages that you guys send, and like I'll respond to it in real life, in real time, so that you know that I'm engaging with what you're giving me, regardless of the fact that it's criticism or feedback, or even like compliments, whatever, in real time, so that you feel heard and it's not like it's just going out into the blep or whatever. And then how would I maintain my positive energy? Um, I come to SMU and I'm happy. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I live here. I breathe SMU. I eat SMU. Haven't moved here. Me and Jonathan, like we talk about this daily basis. We're like, we don't even want to go off campus. It's just you come to campus, you go to the commons, people there that are sitting there. You see the energy and the community that we've built. And it doesn't even matter what anyone's saying, because that's what I'm here for. Again, small town, homeschooled, don't have that community, shift to now. Like there's so much I'm grateful for that, like it's not even hard because I'm just so thankful every day. So like I focus on that, and it's not really hard because I'm again in places where I know that like a lot of people aren't. So I just feel grateful every day, and it doesn't bother me. I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm alive and I'm doing great things. Let's go do the next thing. So
Right. Can you get a hand of applause for Leah?
and I would say that back to you, but we're you and you're doing great.
Thank you so much. Sorry to have to slip away, but I look forward to seeing you all again. Really good to see you. So wait, when do we know, by the way? Not to interrupt you.
February 12th.
You guys make us wait so long.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should come to the Gorsberg to celebrate with us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let us know. Please let us know.
Yes. Bye. Dia. Is SNU better than DAL?
Oh,
Okay.
I love your ability to collaborate with Dell. And if you could encourage, I was always jealous that you guys didn't have classes on Fridays. It's amazing. What the heck are we doing? So if you could share some of that with Dell, they're sometimes a little uptight in the good ways. And I think you can collaborate in a lot of ways to help make Dell better, and they can help with.
100%. Yes, that's the plan. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Into the
Okay.
because they're what their needs are, they collaborate with all of those that you're thinking about doing. Layer them into this, and use them as gateways to keep this door open so they can fill this through.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Sia. Bye-bye. What time is it?
It's just that.
Okay. Yes. Move on.
Well, Alex, go.
I was wondering, are there any changes that you plan on making to SNUSA's financial operations? Whether that be removing a current expense that you find unnecessary, or adding a new expense that you believe has merit, or the changes that you plan on making, if any?
So I want to reallocate. Like I've seen a lot of SMUSA's events, and I see small little things that are unnecessary that can be predicted, and you can save so much. Be it food, be it even the event being held. All of those are like costs accumulating. I would cut down on those, and I would like do a revisit. Like, is this food at this place needed? Is this catering needed? Is this trip needed? And that's why I said the peer advocacy thing, because the VP advocacy, like me and Tina talked about it. Once she explained it to me, again, gonna revisit it later once more just to have the whole entire 360. But it was an unnecessary cut. So I do have a few in mind, but once we get into it, and I have, because we don't publish all of it. Yes, I do. And then added costs would probably be um maybe the loaded ladle or the partnerships that I bring in. But minus the costs, I really want to do the bursary program. I think it's life changing for a lot of people. They might not care about like a concert or like bingo, but they care about the fact that they no longer have to leave SMU because they don't have enough money. So that's like number one priority, and we would have to allocate money by cutting all of those things. Yeah.
Here you go.
Dedicated to art experience. So it's really great to see that. I've heard a lot of good points and a lot of initiatives that you want to put forward. Some of them have been explored by my current team as well. For example, when you mentioned the tuition transparency and mentioning like some predictability with regards to the strike and things like that, well, those would be amazing to have. There are a couple of obstacles to that, unfortunately, and some of that, what I mean by that is student administration. So for example, when it comes to tuition predictability, as much as we all would love to have that, unfortunately, that has to be in various channels of senior administration, including the board of governors facility. And they don't get too kindly to students knowing exactly when they're going to increase tuition, as much as trust me, we try to do that. I'm not saying it's impossible, of course, but you just have to know how bad you navigate these kind of spaces. And as well with the points and boards, instability in terms of strikes. So we all know, in case you didn't know, like strikes have never happened in Swedish history in 200 years that we've been around. The very first strike just happened to happen last semester, and we are aware that there is a full-time faculty strike like currently brewing, and we have heard some feedback from students like how we can support students before it actually happens, which is good feedback. So my question is, how would you push back with SMU administration when it comes to making decisions that really matter to students while maintaining that healthy professional relationship? Because what we see sometimes is that unfortunately, student administration's priorities are a little different from the student association priorities. We are students for students, But unfortunately, SME administration is not always like that. So as a student leader, as somebody whose students are actively bringing you forward to represent them at those senior tables, how are you going to show us that you're ready to push back with the SME administration when it matters?
Oh, so much to unpack. So, there's a lot of issues currently with how SMUSA is structured. It takes away a lot of power from the students, which is why the administration can push back so much. You look at any other student union, the admin can only push back so far because at the end of the day they're union. So there's an underlying thing there, that when I come into presidency, we're going to look at how we can shift that and gain more power. And even before we do that, it again comes down to when your castle is crumbling and you are trying to pick fights with other people, fix your house first. We have to build such a strong house that when we go and we're like, okay, yeah, this is what we need, they take us seriously. Because looking at the stuff that comes out of SMUSA right now, like the internal politics and like how the relationships have been built within SMUSA and outside, no one's going to take us seriously. Like the way that it has unraveled over the past course of like the 2 years, once our house is built up, and we're going to get into a board of directors meeting, we'll like sit there and discuss how we can change our association in a way where we get a lot of power. Unless we do that, it'll be the same cycle all over again. So I can say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But no, we need tangible action items. And that's why I said a long-term vision is really necessary. And it's really necessary to think about that now, because we were great as an association before and we were doing great. But now that strikes are happening, tuition caps are happening, and they don't want to listen to us. What can we do to make sure that they listen to us? And I can say, I'm going to go into that room and do a lot of advocate. We all know that's not practical. So what can we change within our own house to make sure that like no one can shut the door on our face? Changing how much power we have and internalizing, building such a strong team, doing so much research, getting so many students to back us up. Like right now, if I built a report that said like 5,000 students are saying this, the admin kind of will be forced to listen even more. But how do you get 5,000 students engaged with SMUSA? We could barely get any right now. And this is about the future. So we have to figure out the steps to get to a very strong base. And then they'll trust me on this, they will have to listen. And that's how it is. That's the president for every other university, every other association, every other union. You can't go into a room and ask for something when you have no leverage. Currently, we have zero leverage. So that's my best answer for you.
Go ahead, Helen.
I definitely applaud what you say about long-term vision. I think multi-year strategic plans for both the board director and the roles as president are something important that we could implement. I guess my question is, how would you make sure that whatever mandate you set for a multi-year vision wouldn't immediately be gone back on by whoever the next president and board of directors are for SMUSA?
Um, that's when we kind of build it. It wouldn't just be me; it'll be me in collaboration with the board of directors. Having like a 360 perspective. I mean, the same way that like each year we have the same way we go about the election. We have policies that we follow. It is, and every year when a president leaves, they leave like their documents, their transition documents. Any other new president doesn't have to follow. So like there's no concrete answer for that, because like anyone can do whatever, once they have the power. But I don't think any president who comes into the role wanting to serve the students would look at a vision and be like, yeah, no, I don't care about that. And if they do, then that's just, there's like a really big issue with that. But even when we build the vision, it's to do with making sure that the students are being benefited. So I don't see why the board of directors, who each one, by the way, has 2 years, so there'd be senior ones, even when I'm changed and the next one comes in. So there's someone to reinforce that. But at the end of the day, we're association, we have policies and whatnot. So just throwing a vision out is not necessarily that easy to do. Yeah.
So your idea to bring forth an addition of a multi-year plan, it's actually something I brought up in my very first few months of being president. I had brought that forward to the chair of board of directors. And he had told me that when it comes to setting multi-year plans for the organization, that is the responsibility of the board of directors solely. Even when it comes to the direction for the president, simply because the board is responsible to set the strategic direction of the association. So since there's that yearly annual tournament for presidents, we essentially don't get to set that multi-year direction since the board was there for at least 2 years and then they switch, they set the direction. So essentially my idea was shut down because I'm not gonna hear the next year. So my question is now that this very important initiative that I had brought up is now coming back, which just reinforces the importance of setting it up for us, the presidents, essentially. How would you make sure that we don't overstep on the responsibility for the board of directors to set that direction for the association, but also make sure that there's something for the incoming president so they just don't go on a whim and decide to just throw everything out the window that the previous president has created?
Okay, so clarifying on what I meant is like, long-term work that we should be doing. I mean it more in the sense of vision, like the direction where we want to go at. For example, let's say if we have thought about advocating for tuition like increases or whatnot, right? That's not a 1 year thing. That's not a 2 year thing. That's like year-long thing. So when you set down that vision, it's more to do with, okay, how are we going to go about this? Again, a vision. It's not action items. You're coming in next year, you have to do this. It's more to do with how the roadmap looks like. So when I say long-term plan, I mean like a roadmap, to look for as a guide. And then also when I talked about the partnerships that I build, those are partnerships that like the next presidents can carry on. And I don't want to overstep into the board. I think like whoever's going to be the chair, there's like 3 very experienced people who are going to take over, or who are going to be in the board for this year as well. They're very experienced. I know them personally. I have looked at the things that I'm responsible for. And there's again that relationship building where you're very wary of where you want to step in and like where you have to respect other person's boundaries of like related to our work. So again, just clarifying that I'm not talking about having like large action items for all the other presidents to inherit. It's more about setting up like initiatives that the next presidents can carry forward because they address something. Like if we partner up with Loaded Ladle, it addresses food insecurity. So the next president can then take over. That's a vision, right? Let's say we are thinking of collaborating with Sobeys to bring in more donations into the food room. That's a vision that like in 2-3 years, the presidents can continue working on it. So I don't think it necessarily overlaps with the board and all of the items. Like you work with the board, you go hand in hand, and there's no like me imposing something on them and them imposing something on me. It's a working together for the students. So anything that's an initiative that I have a vision for, it's more to do with that. Nothing is sort of like giving them you have to do this sort of thing. Yeah.
To work.
No,
But
I did.
shape. Someone's not senior campaign last year, it is like in your first year. And this is like now going into their second year here. I really do see the drive and the passion you have, and everything you carry with is with grace and elegance. And I really do feel inspired for everything you've said so far. So finally, we'll get the next question later on. Two people have some more. But on top of international students being hit tuition caps as well, which I do believe is a very strong issue. This year, the Canadian student grants as well have been under affection. They might be removed, which is between a 3,200 and a 4,200 increase or decrease all overall student loans for every domestic student across Canada. So you also have predictability in terms of how that would affect students as well on top of the tuition caps or predictions.
So I have heard about that,
Yes.
and I believe I saw a post on CASA about it actually.
Yes.
And I think it was the ULET's president talking about it. And I think again this goes back to because these issues are so astronomically big, one university cannot do something alone. It's about working with organizations like CASA because they also have a vision, they have a roadmap. And when I come into it, there's a lot of learning to do, as every president does. We have like Advo Week, they kind of tell us how we're going to transition, and you get a bunch of information. So once I have enough information, I would work with those organizations and I would work with my board to advocate on those things. I'm not sure, Kristen, if you're looking for very specific answers, because these are things that are very climate based. They change on a regular basis. These are very politics driven. They're based on like the governments right now. So all of these questions, my answer would be the same, which is working with CASA and working with our board and working with other organizations that we work with for that kind of advocacy, because I understand that international students are not the only one with tuition. It's also domestic students. And a part of my campaign is also making sure that domestic students are engaged, because currently they're not. Like, they don't care. Yeah, no, all good.
You forgot about Catherine and the Black company brought that up. What is your opinions, your views on that? How much do you want to get involved with external advocacy? Is it something you want to take on personally, going on trips? Do you think you would probably have someone as part of your executive team that you would hire, or take that on and you stay in house? But like, what do you see for your balance between internal and external bodies when it comes to advocacy?
So I think internally, the peer advocacy team, on a daily basis, they do a lot of work, and I have those conversations with them on a daily basis. So I know that it's not publicized, but they do a lot of internal advocacy with the like internal organizations. When it comes to external, it's a bit of both. When I get into the role, we shall see how it goes. But if supposedly if we keep the 3-team rule, it'll probably be one of my VPs, perhaps VP academics, who would go where they are necessary if it's a 2% thing. Otherwise, I would take on a lot of that advocacy, because it's very, very necessary that you have someone representing SMU who is not afraid of those uncomfortable conversations with those intimidating people that you just mentioned. And we're part of a lot of organizations. I would want to leverage that as much as I can, like as much as possible, to take from them, like learn from them, and then use their connections and use what they're giving us, and using their platform, because they have really big platforms. Yeah, I would use them to amplify my voice to the max that I can do. Yeah.
Tina?
So with my experience being president, and it's not to say like with my experience so far, it's been amazing. I would say that the best decision I've made. But I think it's very important to note as well that coming into this role, it's important to know that my experience is a bit unique than any other Swiss president that's been in this role. I'm the first ever Black female president that's been in the Swiss position. If we were to win, we would be the first South Asian woman to get into this position. So just me envisioning that potential transition is very important to me. And for me, as somebody who is very vocal about the experience of women and women of color in leadership spaces, I see this as a very important transition. But with being someone who identifies with minority in a sense and being in these kind of leadership positions, they pose certain challenges. Particularly, I've been in spaces both inside of Sweden and outside of Sweden where my expertise and my leadership experience has been questioned simply because of my identity. Like, I've literally had someone ask me, someone who's in a senior leadership role here at Sweden actually asked me how my English is so good since I'm South Africa. So there have been those kind of situations that I wouldn't say that we're going to have the exact same situation, but it would be very important for you to mentally prepare in those kind of similar situations, especially like given in spaces where it's not just only your race that will be visible, it's your gender as well. So my question is, when you are faced with those kind of situations and you are standing in those rooms where potentially you might be the only woman in the room, potentially you might be the only South Asian in the room, how do you make sure that you stand your ground? And how do you make sure that people listen to you and they understand that what you have to say is still valuable and you're still capable of having the exact same conversation with everybody else in the room? And that what you have to say matters because students are the ones that have brought you into that room that you are representing in the same respectful manner, in the same engaged manner, but make sure that you're not walking all over you simply because you're a woman.
Um, what a great question. Like, I was born in Pakistan. I've spent most of my childhood in Saudi Arabia. I've literally had professors like you say to me, Saudi Arabia, wow, your English is, did you go to an English school? Professors. So like I've experienced that. I've experienced people questioning me for my gender, my age, my color, everything, everything that someone could judge me for, they've judged me for. And I've been in those spaces where I've been the youngest person in the room, where I've been the only woman in the room. And I think again, that's why I've spent the last 2 years building such strong experiences and being in those uncomfortable situations, because it really helps you navigate. Because if I hadn't been in those, then I could say, yeah, I'm just gonna like speak strongly, because you haven't experienced that. And once you experience it, you know how it feels because you've lived that experience. And even when I ran in my election, I was questioned because I was a South Asian woman. If I win this election, I'll be probably the youngest SMUSA president that has ever been. And I think it comes down to like you have to get yourself that respect that you deserve. And if you are not, you have to stand your ground. You have to shut them down. I've had very uncomfortable conversations with people in senior up conversations where they make like a weird comment, and I just like kind of give them a side eye, and they get it. They get it. Even with professors, I'm like, no, professor, like I make like a sarcastic comment back. And yes, that it's just an example of me saying I know how to deal with it. I've been dealing with it since I came to SMU. And it's not something I'm afraid of. I think when you go into those rooms, you have to be prepared, and you should not step back. And sometimes you have to call people out on their stuff, because in these rooms, these people are very powerful, and they've never been called out or held accountable. And when you hold them accountable, it sets a tone. Because if I become the SMUSA president and people are just disrespecting me left, right, and center, and I don't stand up for myself, the house has crumbled, it's gone. And it's the same thing that applies to SMUSA as well as an organization. It's because from the people inside to the students, everyone just keeps tarnishing the reputation that it no longer has that respect. So if I went into those rooms and I didn't stand up for myself, my presidency would crumble, which is why it's very important from day one, like you set yourself up for success, and you set yourself up as like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to have this conversation with you, regardless of the fact that I'm like a young female, and like you may look at me, people think that I'm a child. And I'm like, in serious situations, I've been questioned like workspaces, and I'm like, you hired me, I'm good, But again, it comes back to holding people accountable, I would say. And I have so much lived experience with that specific thing. So what you say doesn't even surprise me, and I'm so sure you've had such a harsh experience, because it is not fun being a woman, being a South Asian, being the youngest person in the room. Like, oh my God, all the cards in front of you. It's not easy, no. Yeah.
So I'd say we have time for one more quick question, and then we'll get to Elise's closing remarks. Yeah, I was gonna say, we can let Kristen finish off his 5 question. Let's just laugh.
Yeah, so finally, to another item. So you're very passionate at what you do. I really do see it, and you're a reflection of your character, how you carry yourself so far. But with that, and it means you're gonna have a strong vision, right? If one of your VPs, the board of directors, or another one of your potential business collaborations has a project that students have been asking for specifically, but hasn't been brought to your attention yet, but it conflicts with either your vision or the long-term plans eventually, how do you reach a common, respectful middle ground for all parties involved?
Could you rephrase that? There were so many elements. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's some of them. someone that you're collaborating with brings something or a project to the students, or that the students want to have done around the school. That but it is not in your action plan for the year, or it does not, or conflicts with your personal vision. How do you reach a common respectful middle ground for all parties involved?
Okay, so when you say personal vision, I won't even phrase it like that. Because when I go into this presidency, when it happens, if it happens, it won't be Lisa's vision. It has to be the SMUSA president of 2026 to 2027's vision. Because at the end of the day, what is my vision? Like, am I serving myself and my friends? No. And that's why, from all the questions I answered previously as well, I'm not really here to serve my, like, I'm not here to make programs that like will do me good or like build partnerships. Like, I'm apparently I'm going to get something out loaded. I'm not going to do those partnerships. Again, that's a question of my integrity. And those kind of stuff, it always comes up. Whenever someone has been corrupt, someone has gone out of their way to, do just wrongful things that you shouldn't when you're in a position of power, it always comes up. And it's not even about the fact that it comes up. I think it should just be, as someone who gets infuriated by that because they've seen all of that stuff happen and it has happened, uh, I can't bring myself to repeat history. And then also, if students are proposing something or a business brings something and the students are backing it up, like you guys said in your BOD forum, why not? My vision or like this news, whatever vision, at the end of the day, it's for the students. So if tomorrow I'm like, oh, I want to do loaded ladle, and the students say, no, all the money that you're gonna put there, I want that to go to food drive, and it's the student body saying it, immediately changed. Immediately, it does not matter. Because at the end of the day, I'm not answering to a business. I'm not answering to whoever, I'm answering to the students. And I'm doing this for the students. So whatever they want, we will do. As long as it's in the best interest, because a lot of the times, and I've seen this happen in previous presidencies as well, the presidents have a vision for something, which in the long run, even with the board of directors, they've collaborated. In the long run, it benefits the students, but the students don't quite see it. In a case like that, when all parties that are in the positions of power in SMUSA agree that it's in the long-term, benefit, then that's a special circumstance. Aside from that, anything the students want, they shall have, regardless of whoever I have to fight with in the admin or whatever, they shall have.
I'll let you do some closing remarks. Things to end on.
I've spoken for 2 hours. I do really love talking, but this is a lot of talking. I will just say, last year when I came, I had the same dedication and passion that I do now, but it kind of started off as me being like, this election doesn't have enough, the vibes aren't there. And then I went to the BOD forum and I'm like, okay, well, I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it for the same reasons that I'm doing it now. I was doing it because for the students, but I wasn't because I didn't think that the students had the same problems as I did. I thought I was the only one. And that meeting changed my life. I was like, okay, these issues exist and we need to address them. And so then for the next 1 year, regardless of whether I was going to apply or whatever, I realized what I was missing, and I went and I got experience. I developed the soft skills, I developed the hard skills, so that when you ask me something, like for example, Tyler, when you asked me that and I didn't know, I'm gonna go home and do it, gonna go home and figure it out. But it's also not even just about the fact that, there's so much the SMU does, and obviously one person, that's why we have VP advocacy, we have VP academics, because one person cannot do it all. But at the end of the day, it's about wanting to learn and wanting to grow. And from my last presidency to now, people who've seen it have just said that I have. And I haven't done it because, I wanted this MUSA presidency. I did it because I knew that it was in my benefit. And if I ran, it would be in the benefit of the students. And then when this election happened, I was like two ways about it. I have my plan set out for the year. I want to get an internship in Toronto. I'm going to spend my summer there. And then I see like what's happening in SMUSA, and I'm like, no one cares enough to run. Like, it is genuinely so sad because you pay so much. Like, there's bursaries there that like they should be getting 1,000 applications every day, but they don't. So it's like, I realized that the importance, like I value it so deeply. And if someone else was running, like we could go back and forth on that, but like no one is. So now I was like, okay, I'll step up and I'll do it. And I'm not even if I don't get it, I get it or whatever. I think the journey was so good. I'm like a changed person now. It gives you so much perspective. And I think even throughout that period, I got so much mentorship from like my RAs and like, residents. And once people knew that I was running, they would give me such great advice. And just because my face was out there, they would give me feedback that I've then been able to incorporate. Like how I was able to sit with the food room coordinator and get his feedback on things because he knew I ran. So he was like, I'll give you what I want because I think you might be able to do it. And societies tell me this all the time. Oh, LA 290, can you put a cap on like the amount of bookings that you do? Because they know I'm going to run and they know that I may have the power to do it. So even if I don't win or whatever, I have an immense amount of knowledge. And even when I interviewed Tina, like when we were going back and forth and I was giving her information that I was missing out on or she was missing out on. And regardless of what happens, I think at the end, I love SMU and I'm gonna find a way to like bring my visions to life, even with the partnerships that I want to do, loaded ladle, you can do that even outside of SMUSA, but through SMUSA, you can have such a big change. There's a difference because when, let's say, Enactus does this loaded ladle thing, it'll have a big impact. But when your student association does it, it changes the game. It's like revolutionary. So if I can come in and do that, it would be my honor to serve the students. If not, very happy to go about my life, learn more, grow as a person. And that's about it. Because I think all of these positions, you come out a changed person and they change you so much for the better. That's my end note. Thank you all for coming.
All right, so I want to thank Lisa so much for joining us here today, as well, especially everybody in the audience for attending as well. It means so much that everybody who's here is here and asking questions and engaging with SMUSA. I know it's really easy for a lot of students to feel like SMUSA doesn't matter and that the elections don't matter, but we had a minister of the provincial government come here to speak with us and listened to Lisa speak and everybody, and she talked with almost every individual person that was here in the audience. And that shows that we do matter and we have a lot of potential here in this association. So the one thing I want you guys, other than everything Lisa said today, to bring home is please, please, please vote. It is very important. It happens on February 10th to 12th. You get an email. It takes not even 5 minutes. It's online, super simple. Please tell your friends. Like that's how you spread the word. It's my job, Lisa's job, and all of our candidates' jobs is to get the vote out, but we can't do it alone. We need the audience, everybody in SMU to care. That's something that really matters, and it's both the hardest part of my job, but the part of my job that's the most rewarding is seeing the impact on student participation in SMUSA. It really matters. So I just want to thank you again for coming, and thank you, Lisa, again.
That was an honor. Thank you.
Once again, there's pizza. Because SMUSA, we don't know anything but pizza. Trust me, we try. Simple. I think. This one. Well, that's it. You heard it, Jim. Then. Yeah. Pickers in bed. That is, please.